So I hope everybody's well. It was a beautiful day, so I couldn't resist coming out to record another video in nature. What I wanted to do today was really just kind of, in a sense, try and bring the last couple of videos in together, because I've been talking a lot about uncomfortable emotions, facing our fears, this whole idea of not knowing. And what I want to do is try and actually kind of bring it all together. And then I think I'll probably be done with the topic. I think really it all comes down to facing our fears. And sometimes what happens when we go into this whole journey of self-realization, or we go into this whole idea of self-inquiry, we're going to be kind of like, in a sense, taking a stick and pulling it into like a lake and giving it a good twirl, and all the muddiness and everything comes up. And sometimes when that comes up, we're overwhelmed by that. We're scared about what we see. We discover things about ourselves that we really didn't want to know, and that can be really, really uncomfortable, and it can bring all manner of emotions up, not just fear, anger, loathing, anxiety, and yet what happens is when these emotions hit us, we act as if these emotions are always going to be there, when in fact we know, and we've experienced this pretty much every instant in our lives, that emotions do always pass. However, when an emotion really grabs our attention, we have two things that we can do. We can either do what most people tend to do, which is turn away from it, and that's pretty much what most people do, because obviously it's a conditioned response, you know, negative or uncomfortable emotion, let's just run away. Or what we do is we try to take drink or drugs, or we try to suppress that emotion. The other, which is the road less traveled, is really to really go into that emotion and to really experience it to the point where there's really just an emotion. There isn't even really anybody experiencing that. What you'll find is the instant that happens, the emotion just passes, because then there's no one that the emotion is actually happening to, and as such it can't survive. When we are witnessing and observing or experiencing these emotions where there's this idea of, you know, this illusory self there, that's when we tend to give ourselves discomfort. If we allow ourselves to be totally open to whatever comes up, what we find is most emotions, positive or negative, will just literally just dissipate, even thoughts and feelings as well. But that can feel quite uncomfortable. And what happens is when we initially go through that uncomfortableness, we just want to just hide away. However, if we allow ourselves to do a couple of rounds of these emotions, and what we'll find is that as we go deeper and deeper into what we are, we're able to process deeper, more, you know, like deeper rooted fears, deeper rooted emotions as well. But it's a process, and it's not a process that we can kind of control. Instead of trying to control it, and that also does tend to slow it down, because what's trying to control it is a mind, and what's also trying to control it is somebody thinking that they can do something, which again will just keep the situation intact. Is to really just trust and surrender to literally what is. From my own personal experience, what I found is that when we are in that place of trusting, trust deepens, and over time we realize that yes, it's great that these uncomfortable emotions are coming up, and it's best that I just face them as and how they do, because what we find is as they leave, there's more ease, there's more recognition, there's more acceptance, there's more trusting, there's a deepening, there's a real joy, but not in the traditional understanding of the word, of allowing these emotions to just come up as and how they need to. And what we find is we start really seeing who we actually are. So the limited idea of us, which tells us that we have anxiety, or we have depression, or that we are I don't know, you know, we are limited in some way, shape or form, that starts getting shaken. And of course the mind is then going to come back and try to preserve this conditioning that's really got us through, you know, life successfully so far, I suppose. You know, like they say, the mind isn't, you know, it's purposeful. Its first instinct is to help us survive, and when that survival is threatened, or so it feels, and remember, it's coming from a place of limitedness, it will push back. However, if we allow this to occur naturally, because obviously if you're on this journey of inquiry, or you're if you're on this journey of inquiry, and you are obviously doing this work to dig deep into yourself, what you'll find is that you're more able to see what the mind is actually doing, and as such you're more likely to start ignoring what's happening, and allowing yourself to really just feel these emotions as and how they come up, what you'll also find is that these emotions will pass. Obviously you knew this, but when you start experiencing, you go, oh, yes, it does. So in a sense, allowing yourself to go through this process where these emotions come up is literally like a reminder as well of how we used to function. You know, like when we were in that childlike state of, you know, you fall over, you scrape your knee, you're crying, 2 minutes later, you know, you're laughing because, you know, somebody's made you smile. And what we find then that this process starts speeding up, and we're not as fearful as we used to be. In my own personal experience, I was kind of terrified of doing videos once upon a time, or speaking to people. I didn't know what to speak about. I would literally talk over people. I wouldn't want them to ask questions. And then over time, that was brought to the fore, and now I find that I was asked this beautiful question at a talk I did on Saturday about how can everybody be the center. And what was really beautiful is my old conditioned response would have been to go, oh my God, I need to answer this right now. But instead I continued talking, and what I found was the question was just answered within that dialogue. And that has come from a process of trusting. And what I've noticed with trusting, it's a gift that keeps on giving. It will just keep deepening. So although I'm speaking like this right now, what I'm finding is by trusting and just by really deepening into this experience of what we really are, I find that ideas emerge, ideas are let go of as well. So it's perfectly okay to be completely wrong about things as well. And whereas before that would have mortified me, now I'm like, well, yeah, that's great, that happens. So lots said there. I hope some of it made sense. Really, it's a naturally occurring process. Let's not try to jump in, and let's not try to. We have this desire to get things done faster than they need to, and we tend to be very impatient. As I've said in previous video, I'm a victim of that myself. However, I've noticed as well that as I've started trusting, I've become, in a sense, more patient. And what I find is these impossible emotions and situations and these uncomfortable feelings that I was running away from, because of that patience and the ease that comes with that, I'm able to now observe these things. And what I find is sometimes, without even experiencing, just that observation of them makes me realize that maybe I don't really need to give this uncomfortable emotion even my attention. And as such, it just goes on its merry way, so to speak. So yes, we can either experience that emotion and really allow ourselves to feel, or as we deepen in what we are, we can sometimes, you know, in that singularity and living as is and living as prior to the mind, what we can find is that we can just observe and realize that it's a very small aspect of what we really are. And thoughts, feelings, emotions will always be here, and they will always pass. And they are similar to waves on the ocean. They rise and they fall, and as such, we don't always have to give them our attention. So I suppose that's two ways of looking at it. If we need to give our attention to something because it's literally overwhelming us, then surrender, completely surrender. Allow yourself to experience until there is no experiencer that's experiencing anything. Or recognize yourself really as that singularity, as that consciousness. And instead, just by living from that place which is prior to mind, we start seeing these waves rising and falling, and as such we find that yes, sometimes they'll grab our attention and sometimes they won't, and as such we don't always have to give everything our attention. So step back, let go of this whole idea, live as you actually truly are, that which is prior to this. Live openly, and as you find you live openly, you'll find that these things are rising and falling as they do. You know, many people talk about the ebb and flow of life. This is just really the ebb and flow of life, and if we can just allow ourselves to go through that, we will find that yes, sometimes we may forget that emotions pass. Sometimes we may forget that if we're going through something really stressful, uncomfortable, that it does have an ending, and that ebb will be followed by flow. But as we go through this, we start seeing more and more that there's always going to be this ebb and flow, and as such we can be free of it. And that's when we really just step back and live as is, and we can witness, similar to watching a film on a screen, and just realize it's all just a dream, it's all just a story. And as such, stories have a beginning, middle and end, and always pass, and a dream is no more real than the one dreaming the dream. So again, thank you for joining me on the video. In this beautiful place of knowing I don't know what I'm going to speak about next, so I have no idea what I want to speak about on the next video. I've had a few video suggestions, but what I am now doing is, as I'm getting these suggestions in, I'm only recording when I'm resonating with the topic. So let's see where this goes. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. If you haven't subscribed and you like what you hear, please do subscribe. We are looking to build a channel, and as such try and do more live streams here as well. I've got some interviews with different podcasts coming up as well, so I will be announcing those on my social media as and how. For the feedback, and keep in touch. It's always lovely to hear from people. It's always lovely to try and answer the questions and really just interact with everybody, and that's something I'm looking to do more of. So have a great day wherever you are. I'll get this uploaded. It should be on release in the next couple of days, and I shall see you on the next video. Thank you.